Welcome back. We resume our journey through Romeo and Juliet with Joan Kemp-Welch's production from 1976.
Clocking in at over 3 hours, this is the longest feature in this series, and stars Christopher Neame and the Royal Shakespeare Company's Anne Hassan.
So join us as we take a look at one of the very few 1970s made-for-TV productions that do not come from the BBC. This is Thames Television's Romeo and Juliet. Aesthetic is very, very stagey, and the codpieces are as egregious as ever. There are too few people, generally, and the staginess bounds the world with an emptiness inappropriate to the screen. As for the costumes, I find them to be bizarrely ineffective and unflattering.
Although it's not from the BBC, they sure as hell got close to the aesthetic. It feels like a theater set that they managed to rent for a bit to record this production. I mean, really, look at these backgrounds. And the deformed Jesus statue. That might be some sort of symbolism, I'm not sure. Either way, it's kind of creepy. The costuming is, well, codpieces. Again.
Not this week, guys. Nope, not doing it.
The text is the most respected in this version and feels the most natural. Elizabethan sex jokes are maintained. Even with the dismal set and the sometimes less than stellar acting, it's clear that the awesomeness of the text shines through, especially through the many scenes that are often cut because most of it is kept in. The opening brawl is hilariously badly choreographed. I enjoyed it. Entertainment is not always about quality, sadly.
It's really bad. There are guys with swords who don't even really use them for some reason. There is far too much telegraphing. They try to make Tybalt look like he knows what he's doing, but then they show him pulling off some of the weakest swings and kicks that I've ever seen on stage. It doesn't help that they don't bother adjusting the light so that they don't reflect off the blades and back to the camera. It gets a bit nauseating. Oh, and for some reason they think that cabbages count as valid substitutes for mortars.
The scene where Romeo meets Juliet at the Capulet Ball runs into a pretty common problem. Romeo talks way too loudly.
It seems she hangs upon the cheek of night as a rich jewel in an Ethiop's ear. Beauty too rich for use, for earth too dear.
The Capulets, when they are talking about the fact that they just saw Montague, discuss it way too loudly.
It fits when such a villain is a guest. I'll not endure him.
He shall be endured. What, goodman boy, I say he shall go to? Am I the master here, or you go to?
And when Romeo and Juliet finally start talking, the look that they have in their eyes isn't romance as much as it is something more akin to, I'd like a lock of your hair so that I can smell it every night. They keep their eyes open during the kiss, which, thanks to the dialogue that precedes it, made this whole exchange seem more than a little creepy.
The fight between Mercutio and Tybalt, as well as the fight between Romeo and Tybalt, are a lot better than the opening brawl. The physicality is evident, and the characters act like they're engaging in combat on a hot day, and they're feeling the effects, which is what Mercutio and Benvolio are talking about before that scene begins. Also, with them keeping a lot of the text in, we actually care when Mercutio dies, which brings much-needed gravity in the scene that turns the play from a comedy to a tragedy.
The weapons are tolerable, I guess.
No, they're not.
Well, it's not really that bad.
Yes, it is. Even older rapiers had at least a basic ring at the hilt for hand protection, but by the time that they developed this fencing style that these guys are using, the rapiers had sweeping hilts, sometimes even bell guards to protect the wielder's hand, since it's a rather significant target when you're wielding a single-handed weapon.
Well, yeah, but considering that—
Also, how the frack did Tybalt die of running into Romeo with a sword? Why is Tybalt acting like he's faking a leg injury? Why does the blood splatter go no further than bits of his shirt in the wrong direction? Why do they keep the "I was hurt under your arm" line when we can clearly see that Tybalt made contact before Romeo tried to grab him? Now granted, it's still actually his fault since he flat out pushed Mercutio towards Tybalt when he was going for no more than a disabling stab, thus causing the sword angle to go for a more fatal stab, but still weird. Even weirder is the fact that the only blood on Mercutio is from an earlier non-fatal stab. Repeatedly saying that you're fatally wounded from a stab wound is hard as hell if we have no visual indication that you are. Why isn't there any more blood on the blades? Why does the cinematographer—
Whoa! Sharky, what have you been teaching her?
Oh no, this is all her.
Why does Mercutio keep telegraphing his attacks like crazy when he's already...
I'm actually kind of proud.
Why do they even have mangoes?
Tear to my eye.
They're supposed to be Italian.
And now let's move on to the actors. Playing Romeo is Christopher Neame. He was 29 when he took the role, but he looks and seems older. He actually is really good, but if he had a younger presence, he could be a great Romeo. Although I must admit, I find him weirdly attractive, like a cross between Michael Pennington and Laurence Olivier.
I don't know, I thought that he looked like a younger Rainn Wilson. Maybe that's just me. I don't think he did too bad, and as I've said, although I don't have problems with age casting, I do start having problems when they leave in dialogue that states or implies a character's age when the actor can't physically match that, which they did here. Again, if you're casting an older actor, just remove the lines pertaining to specific ages or specific age groups and you'll be fine.
To me, it's not that bad because most of the cast are trying to act their roles, not trying to be an age that they clearly aren't. Unfortunately, one of the exceptions to this is Anne Hassan, who plays Juliet. She has a very false, trying to be young vibe going on, although not as bad as the first movie that we reviewed, which is a bit of a sad standard. Also, she gets more than a little creepy when she starts to have what seem to be Nam flashbacks. I don't know what's going on there.
An ancient receptacle where for these many 100 years the bones of all my buried ancestors are packed. Where bloody Tybalt, yet but green in earth, lies festering in his shroud.
Anne Hassan, who plays Juliet, was 24 when they recorded this, and yet with her acting, combined with the makeup, lighting, and blocking, gives off this unmistakable old cat lady vibe that gets downright creepy at times. She reminds me of Eponine from Les Miserables.
I'm sorry, what?
The book, not the musical. I said Les Miserables, not Les Miserables.
Good, that means I don't have to kill you now. The rest of the cast is not too bad. David Robb as Tybalt is awesome. He is here to kill Montagues and chew bubblegum, and he is all out of bubblegum. Robin Nedwell is a very entertaining Mercutio. Lawrence Payne displays a lot of gravitas as Lord Capulet, and Mary Kenton as Lady Capulet doesn't do too badly either. On the downside, Benvolio looks twice as old as he should be, and the friar and the nurse are kind of throwaway. Not bad, just not that memorable. And quick side note, Paris, played by the late Simon Manimal McCorkindale, was definitely distractingly cute for yours truly. Overall, a good decision to keep most of the text in, but not enough actors who could deliver them well enough to keep my attention, including Juliet. Ultimately, it's more important to have a good Juliet than a good Romeo, because Juliet has to carry whole scenes by herself, while Romeo gets some help in the form of his posse. It's a long and effective script cut, but poorly supported by the aesthetic and exhausting in the second half due to the focus on Juliet.
I'm not sure if it was the same when this was broadcast or if the DVD copy was from a less than optimal master, but there are quite a few noticeable technical errors in this one. However, even when you ignore those, there are far too many shots of people's backs, or the backs of their heads, or shots where they aren't visible at all despite the fact that they're delivering lines. The fight scenes range from okay to hilariously bad, and the death blows are always poorly done. I'm not saying that this is the worst Romeo and Juliet, but it's definitely quite a few thousand miles away from being the best.
And so ends our look at the 3-hour adaptation that is Joan Kemp-Welch's Romeo and Juliet. Next time we'll look at the BBC Shakespeare's take because, well, really it's kind of inevitable. Until then, this has been Cassius.
And this has been Sharky.
'Tis late. Farewell. Good night. The physicality is evident, and the characters act like they're engaging in combat on a hot day, which... The fight between Mercutio and Tybalt, as well as the fight between Romeo and Tybalt, are a lot better than the opening brawl. Yes,